Is guilt tipping out of control? Look, does this happen to you today? Here we go. I'm just going to ask you a question before you pay. I'll stand here and watch what you choose. Does that give you a tinge of anxiety or even stress you out? Well, if you give into that, that is called guilt tipping. And you know what? I've got a solution to guilt tipping, a simple and elegant way that I'm going to share with you so that you never have to see a payment terminal like this in your face again that asks you for a tip when you're out shopping or dining and paying for something. Yes, I've got a proven solution for how you'll never even be asked to leave a guilt tip again because I tested it and mastered it. I'm going to show you how that works later. It does work. Also, we have an unverified report of a self-serve digital kiosk now even asking for a tip. What? I mean, how far will this go? I'll get into that too. It's all about guilt tipping today. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold, Get Rich Education founder, Forbes Real Estate Council member, and longtime real estate investor. Yes, you've got access to a Forbes member here. I'm talking straight to you, and I reply to the comments that you leave on the videos here too. Before I share my guilt tipping elimination absolute solution with you that you're really going to love, let's get some context about why this is so important to you in the first place and how bad it's getting. You're not going to believe it. All right, first of all, a new study from the Pew Research Center found that 72% of people said that the long-standing practice of tipping is now expected in more places than it was 5 years ago. My reaction to that stat is, what? How is it not 100% of people saying that today? Yes, it's happening all over the place, and consumers like you and I are increasingly getting tired of it. And the way that it works is that today's digital payment prompts allow businesses to preset suggested tip levels for you, so it's easier than ever for them to ask for tips. And companies that have not done so in the past, they're definitely doing it now. So see, a few years back, the reason that you began getting asked to leave a tip when you hadn't before is because it was a way for you to provide a gratuity for service workers because you appreciated that they showed up during the health crisis when a lot of people didn't want to show up. But now that the crisis is over with, the tip requests have not gone away. They have gotten worse because companies have seen what they can get away with. It's working. Now, look. People don't want to feel like a jerk or a cheapskate, but businesses are taking advantage of the fact by making these bigger than usual tips the default options on these payment terminals. Say that you're given choices of 20, 25, or 30% on a payment terminal just for someone handing you a pre-made sandwich that's already wrapped in cellophane and then hoping that you will just go ahead and pay the extra amount rather than hassling with clicking custom tip and then entering a smaller number like 10%. Understand something here. The business, let's call it a sandwich shop in this example, okay, they're not the ones that always decide what the tip options are that you'll be presented with. Did you know that? Because the companies that own the payment systems, they can earn a cut of your money from each transaction. Yeah, those payment system companies, they have an incentive to increase those amounts as much as possible too. It's not just the sandwich shop, but they are both complicit in this scheme together. But now, sometimes you get asked to leave a tip beforehand, before you're even delivered any good or service. That is awkward. And see, the fear now is that in that case, as a customer or a client, you're going to get punished for leaving a low tip before they deliver the service to you. See, that's one big problem here with guilt tipping. Now, traditionally, tips were thought of as a way to reward good service after you already received what you paid for, right? That's how it works, or how it used to work. You pay your server after a meal. You pay your valet after they bring you your car. You pay the tour guide after your volcano hike or your snorkel tour if you thought that they did a good job. Now, just the other day, at a chain fast casual Mexican restaurant that you've surely heard of, I was being rung up for $35 for 2 double steak burritos. Okay, there's a lower service level there than a full service sit down restaurant, but I just left a 10% tip at the counter on that day, and then I walked my burritos to the tables, and the tables were messy. I couldn't find a clean table anywhere, but I had already left the tip. See, it was too late, so I left the tip, and only later did I discover the poor service, the messy tables. Well, gosh, I sure wasn't going to go back and try to undo the tip. Now, before I tell you my elegant solution so that you can forever avoid guilt tipping, now just understand, where are Americans tipping? The situations when people add a gratuity offer some insight into this new tipping landscape, and they'll tell you if you're tipping properly. And again, this is according to Pew Research. Dining at sit-down restaurants, 92% of people are tipping there. That was the highest. And of note, a majority said they would tip 15% or less for an average sit-down meal. That actually kind of surprised me. Etiquette experts say that tipping 20% at a full-service restaurant is standard. Getting a haircut, 78% of people tip. I always do for that. Having food delivered, 76% of people leave a tip. I do for that as well. Using a taxi or rideshare service like Uber, 61% of people said they'd tip. I always do. Buying coffee, only 25% of people said they'd tip. And eating at fast casual restaurants, 12%. Look, people are upset because we've had years of high consumer price inflation, plus service inflation on top of that, plus a tip on top of that. It's tipflation on top of inflation. And then there is this preponderance of restaurants, especially these restaurants, that suggest that you tip the post-tax amount. That means that you're also paying a tip on top of the tax that you pay. And here's what I mean. Say you get a $100 restaurant bill where you want to leave a 20% tip. Well, that means you leave a $20 tip. But if your $100 restaurant bill has 10% sales tax, that's $110. But unscrupulous restaurants suggest you pay a 20% tip on that. So $22 as your 20% tip, because they're calculating your suggested tip on the post-tax amount. That's annoying, and I doubt that that restaurant really takes that extra revenue and sends it off to the IRS. No, I doubt that that's happening. It all comes back to tipflation. It's the influx of automatic prompts at businesses like coffee shops that give consumers more chances to tip. It's kind of creating this sense of exhaustion. Now, can you believe this? Although I can't independently and in person confirm it because I haven't seen it with my own two eyes, this could be what's coming. Even some self-serve kiosks like self-pay at checkout interfaces, they're asking you to tip these days. We have a report from Reddit on a self-serve kiosk asking for a tip. That's what you're looking at here. My goodness. Tell me in the comments if you've experienced this in person yet. That is wild. Your supermarket wants to outsource their checkout duties to you, which they're increasingly doing, asking you to scan your own groceries. That's what's known as service inflation. And then ask for a tip on top of this food inflation and service inflation. You're doing it all yourself. What's next? Are you going to have to unload the store's delivery of food from the 18-wheeler truck onto a forklift and then place it onto the store shelves yourself? Come on. I kind of doubt that. But if grocery store or convenience store self-serve kiosks are requesting tips, it's more likely that soon enough your human checkout clerk is going to start requesting tips. Just watch. When you're checking out in the near future at Whole Foods or Publix or Wegmans or Safeway or wherever you shop for groceries, I bet that's coming to your town next. Now, there used to be a general understanding of what different tip amounts convey to servers and workers. Decades ago, it used to be a 10% tip meant something like, well, hey, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great either. 15% was normal, and 20% used to mean that that person did an excellent job, but now all those amounts have become expected and they've all bumped up. Well, here is my solution to avoid guilt tipping. The way to no longer see a digital payment terminal spun around, putting it in your face on the spot to make a nice tip for you and to have that be expected is a two-word solution: pay cash. Yes, when you pay cash, you don't have to see an electronic payment terminal at all, and it's far easier for you to ignore a physical tip jar that's sitting on the counter over to the side of you. That is the elegant and simple solution: pay cash. Now, leave a tip for good service if you want to. I mean, this video isn't to tell you to stop tipping. It's about how you can make an elegant circumvention of guilt tipping. I mean, if you have an 8-second long exchange where you ask for a cup of coffee and they turn around and they pour it from a spout and then they hand it to you, I mean, a tip like that is still discretionary. The bottom line is that you don't have to tip every time you're prompted, and now, yeah, hit up that ATM. With cash, you can avoid guilt tipping completely. Hey, let me know in the comments, where have you seen tips be asked for that's become outrageous? Now, I shared some examples with you there myself. I'd love to know too if you've seen a digital self-serve kiosk have the audacity to ask you for a tip, or anywhere else you've seen out there in the economy where you think tipping has gotten out of control. I'd love to read your comment and I'll try to reply. I'm Keith Weinhold. Watch me in this next video where you'll see me spot astounding inflation on the shelves as I walk the Las Vegas and Anchorage supermarket aisles. You can watch this one next.